Good evening and welcome to the Speak Easy podcast. I am your host, Constance Woulard, and tonight we are here to discuss the Invisible Soul Anthology. Yes, my visionary project, The Invisible Soul, and I have some of the collaborating authors here with me tonight, and they're going to come and share and tell why they felt compelled to join this anthology, this collaboration, and just kind of give us a snippet about what their chapter is about. And so tonight, I'm going to bring them up. I have Coach Alonda Ross Brooks. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have Miss Elizabeth Gagnon from Ontario, Canada. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have Dr. Pastor Robert Cockfield of San Antonio, Texas. Good evening.
Good evening.
And last but not least, I have Sherelle D. Mims, and the D stands for Did Not Tell You So. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Yes. So
Welcome. Thank you.
I hope you guys are as pumped as I am about this collaboration. You know, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I received the inspiration to do this after I walked off the stage at the Sean Fair Leadership Experience Tour. And that's where I got my inspiration. It's okay, you've got to go deeper and talk about the sabotaging behaviors that you engaged in as a result of childhood obesity. And so that's my story. The title of my story is called Hidden Treasure. That's the name of my chapter, Hidden Treasure. And it talks about my struggles with obesity for 47 years of my life, how I overcame it, but also these sabotaging behaviors that raised their ugly heads and how I overcame those. And so welcome to each of you. And I just want to start with Elizabeth. You know, Elizabeth, I met her at Sean Fair, and it was just something about her demeanor, something about her spirit, you know, and I was like, okay, when I came up with this project, I reached out to her first because I wanted her to be a part of this. I really did. It meant just my brief interaction with her over a 3-day period. I knew that there was something there. And so, Elizabeth, good evening. And just tell the listening audience who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, thanks, Constance, for reaching out. And it really is an honor to be a part of this anthology. The title is what got me, the invisible soul. As growing up, I always felt invisible. And now that I am out there with a voice and speaking out, I really wanted to share my story. So my story is called The Ugly Duckling Drinks Tea. So we'll just leave it like that. So you guys can just go and grab a copy and kind of dig a little deeper. But if anyone knows the little child story of the ugly duckling, you'll know the transformation of the story. I'm a lady that serves tea. I bring people together for humanity. And I just like showcasing other people and their success and their triumphs. Because when we share other people's triumphs, we actually grow as well. We actually connect and we bring humanity together. And that's all I do is I just serve tea. So I search teaching, education, awareness that we all can make a difference.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for joining us. And then next I have Coach Alonda Ross Brooks. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I am well. Thank you for having me.
And tell the world who you are. and what you do.
So I am Coach Alondra Ross Brooks. As you stated, I am affectionately known to the world as the Becoming Coach. I help my clients in small business as well as imaging spaces become their total self by leaping into their becoming. So I'm super excited to be a part of your project. And my title is my chapter is called Born Invisible. And I talk about how sometimes we think that being invisible is a curse, but really sometimes it's God's blessing and how He's preparing you to step into your purpose.
Wow, that is amazing. Wow. Okay, well, thank you so much, Alondra. Now, thank you so much for joining this collaboration with us. And so next I have Sherelle D. Mims. Good evening, Sherelle. How are you?
Good evening. I am well. Thank you so much for having me, Constance. And what I want to say to my co-authors, how y'all doing?
All right, we're doing great. We are doing great.
Wonderful. So, like she just stated, I am Sherelle D. Mims, and I am in this book. You know what? The invisible soul. When you think about being invisible, it's like you're never even there, right? So, my chapter is called Wow. So, you lost a loved one to cancer. I'm going to just give a snippet. It's related to me losing my fiance to stage 4 stomach cancer. And let me tell you, this is a wild book. The Invisible Soul. When you read these chapters, when you read the what's going on with people, it is so real. And so I felt invisible because what? When you lose a loved one to cancer, your disposition changed. This was something I was not expecting. It happened. We dealt with it. So here I am today telling my story in the Invisible Soul anthology. Thank you so much, Constance.
Oh, thank you, Sherelle, and I'm so blessed to have you to be a part of this anthology. And so we had two men that were brave enough to join in with us women. And one of them is here tonight. Pastor Robert Cockfield, good evening. How are you?
Doing fine.
And so I want you to tell the world who you are and why you chose to become a part of this collaboration.
Well, first of all, I'm very honored to be in all of you individuals' presence because when Constance had talked to me about this, I was a little intimidated because I do my homework, and a lot of the individuals that are co-authoring this phenomenal, and so I thought it would be great. But the reason why I wanted to do this, I've been a pastor, community leader, business leader, all that stuff for over 20 something years. And one of the things that my chapter really addresses is when you're in environments where we're being taught to lie, to really be something or to do things just because. And a quick example of that is on many occasions, as just being a church leader, I felt that I had to be a chameleon. I had to meet a lot of individuals' expectations and needs. And in many instances, there was a certain image that came with that because of those who I served. And on many occasions, the disservice was I pretty much had to be sold on. There was a certain element of decor that I had to service while in that box. I'm talking about the church. I'm not talking about God, the Father, Son, and the Spirit. I'm saying as a pastor in a box, I was basically being told, if you really want this church to survive, there's a certain decor, a way that we want you to act. Did it reflect who I really was in God? No. Families, and even my own family, and being raised. And when we all went to church, we were told, when you leave this house, certain things stay. You go to church, keep your mouth shut, and you play the game. And so I can go on and on about even in marriage. One last thing, even in marriage, you don't really, you forget why you're there. And if you're not careful, you lose a sense of who you are and what your role is within that family. And so you begin to live a lie. And so that's my chapter is really about is are we really living out our purpose and intent that God got us on the planet for? And are we going to be truthful about that? And regardless of what anyone else has to say, are we going to be about God's business, just as Jesus was?
Amen. And as the old folks used to say, are you on the Lord's side? Either you're going to be for him or you're going to leave him alone.
Mhm.
Either you're going to stand for God, either you're going to serve him or you're going to leave him alone. You know, we can't halfway do it. We've got to do and be about what he has assigned us to do. And as you always hear me say in Pastor Coffee, that dash.
Mhm.
What is your divine assigned series in history? Because we're all making history right now. Every day of our lives, we're leaving a blueprint into civilization, whether we realize it or not. And so, what is your dash? Are you fulfilling a purpose? Are you fulfilling your purpose? Are you leaving and are you creating and leaving a viable legacy? So thank you so much, Pastor Cockfield, for sharing that. And so let's talk about this thing. Now we know, you know, we have some other, I think it's like we're missing 11 more people. They couldn't join us tonight. But we know that this is going to be a bestseller. Okay. Now I can tell you some of the chapters that I have read, tearjerkers. So when you get your copy, also get you a box of Kleenex. Okay, because it's some tear jerking that takes place. Because people chose to be honest, and as Pastor Cockfield said, to not lie, to tell the truth, and they spoke from their hearts. They're giving their all from their hearts with sincerity and authenticity. And that means a lot. When you are authentic and able to reveal your authentic self to people, you gain nothing but respect. Nothing but respect, because that person knows that you are a straight shooter, and that no matter what time of day, what day of the week they approach you, they're going to get it straight. And so I thank all of you so much, so much. And so just from being a part of this collaboration and working with me, I want to ask each of you this question. What insight, or have you gained any insight just from interacting with me as an individual? Have you? So I'm going to start with Pastor Cockfield. And why are you
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. So the first thing is your transparency and translucent behavior is crazy. It's fun because if I, you know, it's been times, you know, she would assign me things to do, and I dropped the ball, right? And I'm thinking, man, and in the past, people give you passes. I have not gotten one. So that's the first thing. I really am thankful for your transparency and translucent behavior, because if it's wrong, it's wrong. It's right, it's right. And you're not going to bite your tongue. So I'm thankful for that. And the second thing I want to thank you for is your professionalism. So I was laughing just a week ago. You know, I thought I knew who you were. I'm just scratching the surface. And we were just talking about how you educationally excelled at an early age, and you've always been ahead of your time. And so that right there, once I listened, I said, oh, so that made a lot of sense. The historical context that you have about a lot of stuff is great. And I think the third thing for me is it's just because you're transparent, translucent, you're willing to carve and craft, to coach, mentor, and train people. But again, you're not giving them a pass. You're basically saying, look, up the game. And again, if you're gonna do anything, not only for God, but to represent people, be honest. So
We lost you, Pastor Cockfield. Okay, so while we're waiting for him to come back, I'll move to Sherelle. Oh, here he is. Okay.
yes, that third thing, and I'm sorry, technically, that third thing is, again, because of your transparency and translucent behavior, and you carve and craft, you coach, mentor, and train, and unless one of us just really want to just give up, you're just not that type of person. You're just basically saying, hey, be honest with people, and at the same time, be an example. I think that right there is just rock bottom concrete. If you're gonna do anything, just just be an example. Be better than what you say. And so I'm thanking all of you for being that way. And my hat's off to you, Constance, for being that type of leader.
Thank you so much. And don't think I don't put myself through those same regimens, okay, and hold those same expectations for myself. I have to talk to myself daily. Daily. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this little thing on Instagram where it's always this man talking in the background and these little babies that get into trouble. And the man in the background says, I have never behaved in all my life. I have never behaved. He said, I've never behaved. That's me. I was never one that behaved. Okay. But even though I was one that didn't behave, because of brilliance and curiosity, I got away with stuff because I was able to talk my way out of a lot of stuff. And I was able to show people a different way to do things. They're kind of like, oh, really? Well, I never thought about that. I'm like, yeah, you go do so. I knew how to dissuade them to go to the other side. So that little commercial, he always has children in it, little toddlers, but it needs to have my opinion. And so I have to talk to myself daily. I really do. I have to rein myself in. Yes, I do. Because my thing is, if I'm going to be an example, I have to first set the example and be that example before I can expect the same thing out of someone else. You know, I can't go out there preaching to the multitudes one thing and I'm doing something else. I have to be about business first and make sure that what I'm doing is right. So thank you so much for sharing that. Sherelle.
Yes, ma'am. Come on through.
Come on through.
Come on through here. You know what's so funny? It is so wonderful how Constance and I met. I'm telling you, we met, let me see, in 2021.
Yes.
We met in 2021. And what's so funny about Constance and I is that we never met in person. This has always been this social media. We have not met in person. We just been on a social media thing. And I'm telling you, we just hit it off right from the beginning. Number one, we have something in common. A lot of us have been on the Let with Sean Fair, the Leadership Experience Tour. So that's how we met. From there, we had this wonderful tea event, right? Speaking of tea, Miss Liz, the tea thing. And so from there, I'm telling you, we just hit it off. It's been wonderful ever since. And on top of that, we are both in the healthcare administration. We both are nurses. I've been a registered nurse for, I'm going to stop at 20 years. Constance got me by 10 years. So she's been in the business, right? So I'm telling you, it has been wonderful. Like, I am the founder and CEO of Global Caregivers Network and Global Caregiver Speakers. Constance has been there from the beginning. I'm telling you, when God put us together, he put us together. And that's what you want. You want someone that's like-minded, that's in your space, is doing the same thing you doing. Although we do have different agendas, like she got the podcast, I got the Global Caregiver Speakers. Guess what? We collaborate. Yes. And we put things together, right? Because it's all about the betterment of the people. This is not about me. This is not about Constance. This is about serving the people. Just like Jesus said, I did not come to to be served, but I come to serve. Yes. So you come to serve. I am a servant. I'm a leader. I'm an inspirational speaker. I'm, whatever God says I am, that is who I am. I come to uplift, encourage, and do the best that I can with God's people, right? In that space of caregiving. So that's my story. This is how Constance and I met. We're going to always be interconnected, right? Because we're on that caregiver aspect. We're on that thing of working with caregivers and speaking to them. If Constance knows someone, I know someone, we piggyback and go, get each other people together. Collaboration trumps competition. That's where we're at. And that's my story, as Les Brown say, and I'm sticking to it. And so we have also been in other collaborations as well. But I love this one, this Invisible Soul. What caught me was the book cover. Yes. I love beautiful book covers. So I'm going to leave it right there, Constance, because I know you'll be back to me, but I'm going to leave it right there because I can go on and on and on, baby. Okay.
When Sherelle and I met, we did that collaboration also with Les Brown.
Yes.
And Sherelle and I just started calling each other every day. I mean, just out the clear blue sky, like we were best of friends. And we would call each other every day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. And she would call sis. And I'm like, sis. And we just started talking. And then during the Christmas holidays, she disappeared on me. I'm like, well, where's Sherelle?
What was I doing, sis? What was I doing, sis?
She was about God's business, putting this whole platform thing together for the Global Caregivers Network speakers. She sat down. That's what she was doing. She was about what God had instructed her to do. And she went underground for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then when she came out, she said, this is what I've been up to. And I said, okay, as long as I know you're okay. And that's what we have to do sometimes. When God assigns us stuff, we have to take it underground sometimes.
Absolutely.
And really think about what we're doing and being obedient about what we're doing. So Sherelle, I cherish your friendship. Like I said, we've never met in person, but I cherish it. I cherish it. And I thank you so much. And thank you. Alonda Ross Brooks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's always a pleasure, you know that, working with you. We've been blessed to do a couple of projects together. I am not sure how we met. I think that God just dropped me in your
I have no clue how we met, but
in your peer review. And one day, this beautiful, sassy lady who I've adopted as my auntie jumped in my inbox and she said, "I want to work with you." And we've done some amazing projects together. She was on my anthology, Mompreneurs. Diamonds and Pearls, Affirmation of a Mompreneur Who Rocks. And I just learned so much from you daily. I'm honored to be one of the babies that you've taken underneath your wing and constantly speak life into me and put me in positions and put me in rooms because you believe the God in me. So I am appreciative of that. And just sitting underneath your mentorship is always great, in your wisdom and just the life that you speak into me. So I hope that I also carry that light unto others that you bestowed upon me. So thank you so much.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, and it's so funny to me. You know, I'm fairly new to Clubhouse and all this stuff. And when I first got on Clubhouse, everybody started calling me Mother Constance. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know they're not trying to call me old on the sly. I hope that's not what they're doing, because I'm not old.
No.
Then I thought about it and I said, you know what? It's a term of endearment.
Absolutely.
It's a term of endearment, and it's a term of the utmost respect. And I'll never forget, my dad was saying he was at home one weekend and said he and his friends were talking about the old men that used to be in the community who had passed on. He said one of his friends said, well, I guess that'd be us now, huh? So I guess that's me now. But I am not old. I am just seasoned. Yes, I am. With a whole lot of stage presence. Whole lot. So thank you, Alonda. I'm glad that I've been an influence in your life. I pray that I continue to be that influence in your life. And I thank you so much for that. Liz.
Oh, I don't hear anything.
Yes, here we are. Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Okay. And so the question was, you know, just by your interaction with me, have you gained any wisdom or insight from me just from our relationship?
Oh my goodness, yeah, Constance, I've gotten a lot from you. You were on Tea Time, like, come on, you were like the lady who inspired to overcome obesity. Like, you shared your story, you were empowering, like you really made a difference. And you know, it's amazing how we come together and how people are brought together for a reason. You know, sometimes we don't always understand the season until it's done. And then we look back and we say, oh, now we understand why these leaves had to fall, why we had to connect, and how we had to join to make a story and come together as one, right? And yes. like Sherelle, I don't even think we met in person either. I think it's only been the virtual end, because I think you were at Sean Fair at a different time. So, we really just really had a good time getting together and just making a difference all together. So I'm blessed to know Sean Fair. I'm blessed to know you, Constance. I'm blessed to know Sherelle. And I'm blessed to know all the fellow co-authors as well. There's a few other ones that were with Sean Fair. So I'm blessed to be a part of all of it. And I'm blessed to be a part of my American family. So that's an honor for me as well.
And Liz, one thing I remember you saying at Sean Fair, because that was when COVID was at its height, and you weren't sure if you could cross the border to come. And you said, I was determined to make it to Sean Fair if I had to crawl across the border. And I says, all right, girlfriend. Yeah. All right. And you made it.
I did. I got it.
You didn't have to crawl, but you made it.
And I crawled and I made it. But
it
was an opportunity. One thing
I liked, like you said, you were just that determined to be a part of that experience. And so I commend you on that. I watch your Tea Time episodes, and they're always very enlightening, very encouraging. And so I encourage you to continue the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you so much.
If you have not seen her Tea Time with Liz, I encourage you to tune in, because they're very enlightening and very encouraging. She has some amazing guests on. And so I encourage you, if you have not, to tune in and to do that. And so I will say this, I have learned so much from all of you. Pastor Cockfield used to be my minister when I lived in San Antonio. And so that's how I met Pastor Cockfield. And as a result of me meeting Pastor Cockfield, and I don't believe in accidents and coincidences, but we were sent to one church, and we ended up at Pastor Coxfield's church, and that's not where we were supposed to be. But we got there, we liked it, and we stayed. And immediately, they embraced us as their family. The next week, they invited us to a wedding. We went to the wedding, had a good time, and I had the pleasure of meeting his mother, Miss Lou Cockfield. Lord have mercy. One of the best friends I've had in life. One of the best friends I have had in life. And so it's just been a good experience for me with each of you. I just want you to know I appreciate you. I thank you for being a part of this collaboration. Reach out to me anytime if there's something that I can do to help promote what you are doing. And so with that being said, does anybody have any final words or comments before we close out?
I do. I pray God continue to bless you and all those that are part of this, because this is not easy, sharing our stories. Yes. Maybe everybody else might feel different, but I know it's not easy to be transparent to, on a global stage like this. And so again, I'm really praying for all of us that God would not only allow this experience to springboard us into other things that really can help others become better in who they are, but to recognize that at the end of the day, God got us here, and he don't make mistakes, and the purpose and intent for why he got us here, it's a beautiful thing. And we just got to learn to embrace it and realize that there's no opt-out clauses in this. If whatever you're supposed to be doing while you're here on this planet, if you're really serious about it, nothing should separate you from that love that you have for God and for God's people.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, amen. And out of all the people in the world that he could have connected, he chose to connect us. Out of all the people in the world, at this given time, he chose to connect us. And so we need to remember that. We need to remember that and to hold that in the highest regard. And so, Sherelle, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to give?
I sure would. Thank you so much for the floor, Constance, and everyone on the platform. This is so wonderful. And I would just want to piggyback on what Pastor Robert said. And yes, it is hard to share your story. And I know, just like I'm still in search of male caregivers. I know there's a lot of male caregivers out there, right? But for some reason, they just would not come forth, right? But that's okay. In their time, in their season, they're going to come forth, right? Because eventually they want to share their story. I don't know if you're a caregiver, Pastor Robert, but being a caregiver is It can be exhausting. It can be lonely. It can be frustrating. It can be to the point where you just throw your hands in the air and say, you know what? I'm out of here. This is just too much going on, right? You have days like that. And Constance and I are in the professional arena as well. So even in the professional, dealing with mentally challenged patients, the dementia, Alzheimer's, schizophrenic, bipolar, and everything in between, that is what? Mentally exhausting for me. I did the gamut in the other part with the med surg and all those, but being mentally in in the psychiatric arena now, that is totally something different. I've been in it for the last 10, 12 years, and it's definitely something different. Every day is evolving, it's something different with the patients. And so we really have to put our hat on, if you will, hats with an S. And so I just want to end by this. If you are a caregiver, connect with me. And then also, not that, the Rosalind Carter, President Carter's wife, she said there's only four kind of people in the world. There's only four. There are those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. That's it. The four types of people in the world, cut and dry. So, with that note, I'm going to leave you with that. And let's just pray that we never need a caregiver. But if you are a caregiver now or in the future, be the best caregiver ever. Give quality care. Don't be haphazard in caring for people. Jesus did not care for us any kind of way. So let's do it with love, intentional love, and taking care of God's people in humanity. That's my story, as Les Brown would say, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you so much, Constance.
You're welcome. And just to piggyback on what you said, caregivers are often invisible. They are because they feel like they're in it by themselves. They don't have the support they need. They may have family right around the corner that won't help. So
Sure.
caregivers are often invisible. So we need to keep that in mind. There are several different kinds of invisible souls.
Mm-hmm.
One size does not fit all. One size does not fit all. There are several different kinds of invisible souls. So just keep that in mind. Thank you so much, Sherelle. Alana, do you have any closing remarks?
I do. I actually want to encourage somebody. I pray that with this project, people are they are able to come out of this discouragement, to know that being invisible oftentimes is God's protection, and not to grow weary in well doing, because I know that being invisible can be a frustrating place for a lot of people, because they crave that acknowledgement just to kind of know as their compass that they're doing something right. But I want to encourage you to know that that invisible state is the preparation stage. That is the time where God keeps you hidden to keep you protected so that he can prepare you for your purpose. So make sure that you enjoy that time and that you study to show yourself approved, because once God is like, the light is on and it's time for you to step on that stage. Like, I use this for instance. I'm the youngest person on this project, and oftentimes when I was with my peers and my peer group, I was often invisible, and I didn't understand at the time, but I've come to know that when God calls you, you definitely you take a different trajectory than most people, and you will be the one, and oftentimes the first, to chart uncharted waters. So at times you're in that confused state when you're in that invisible state. But I just want to encourage somebody, whenever you purchase this book, if you're listening tonight, do not grow weary in well doing, because this is your season of preparation. If God has you hidden, he has you hidden for a reason, and that is because you are Jim, and he is calling you to much and to higher. So just use this time and allow him to hide you and prepare you, and don't grow weary.
Amen. That hidden treasure. That hidden treasure. Thank you so much, Alonda. And Liz, final closing remarks.
I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to say, serve your tea. Spill the
All
tea
right.
and let's make a difference, and let's teach educational awareness through our stories, and let's impact the world, and let's make this a #1 bestseller, because I know it will be. So get your copy, because I'm
Yes.
excited to get my copy.
Yes, yes. And so I want to thank all of you for coming tonight and sharing this experience and sharing your experiences. And for those of you in the listening audience who decided to tune in, I want to thank you as well, because you could have done a lot of things tonight, but you chose to join us here at the Speakeasy. So until the next time, may God continue to bless you richly today, tomorrow, and always, and have a good night.